What's up, everyone? Welcome back for another Transmission Tuesday, where every Tuesday in our private Facebook group, we talk about something spiritual or ethereal or do some helpful tips for the energy world for all you folks out there. This week, I wanted to talk about something that I get asked about a lot. Often when people see me on Instagram or they see some of my stuff on YouTube, they go, "Oh, you read tarot?" And I wanted to spend time today to really distinguish between the difference of tarot cards and oracle cards, and then talking a little bit about what I do. There's a really big difference between the two decks, and on top of that, the type of reading that I do is a bit unconventional. So I just wanted to do a little history lesson and a little sort of definitive explaining between what the two are. It can be really confusing if you're not familiar with the two worlds to really understand the difference, because it just looks like card reading, and tarot has a very different way of being read than oracle decks. So we'll start with tarot because it's actually older, and tarot actually it was derived out of Europe, and it's the biggest difference between it and oracle cards is that it's very specific. It's got 78 cards, it's got a major arcana section, it's got a minor arcana section, and the major arcana section are cards like the Fool and the Hermit, and then the minor cards are the cards we're used to seeing, like the Ace of Pentacles or the Four of Cups or the Six of Wands. And they're generally read in a more specific structure. And it's actually a structure that I'm not super familiar with. I could probably cobble together a tarot reading based on my intuitive abilities, but in terms of understanding the basics of them, cups have a pretty significant meaning, wands have a significant meaning, pentacles have a significant meaning, and the fourth suit, which I'm blanking on, swords, and swords have a pretty significant meaning, and how they show up in the deck in relation to what cards you pull from the major arcana all sort of has meaning, and like the Hanged Man and the Fool and the Hermit and all of these cards all have different meaning, and it really depends on whether you're going to someone who's going to read tarot really traditionally, or if you're going to someone who is an intuitive and who's going to derive their meaning from what they're seeing. And tarot originally came out around in the 1430s. Like, we never really know with history how completely accurate it really is, but the research that I did is saying that these cards came out in Italy around the 1400s, and all that was sort of different about them when they began was that they took a regular deck of cards and then they added a whole fifth suit called the Triumph cards. And these cards were meant to sort of overshadow any other suit in the deck. So if you had those, you were going to win your hand or whatnot. And that's when, things like the Fool and all of those were added in. The Fool was not actually originally the Joker. The Fool was always added in that extra suit. And then the tarot that we recognize today came along a little bit later. And like I mentioned before, it's got 78 cards. And again, it was derived in Italy and sort of evolved from that original deck, but that existence of the major arcana and the minor arcana came about later on. And then at the beginning, tarot was actually a game, and it was used for a couple of different games, but I think the earliest versions of euchre actually used tarot cards, but tarot used for fortune telling. Again, this is based on history, so we never really know how accurate this is. I mean, there could have been mystics who were using these cards earlier, or there could have been different types of mystics and different types of cards that were being used and not recorded. But the history that I found was that around the late 1700s was when tarot began to be used for fortune telling, and it was mostly happening in France. And then, as we know, it evolved from there, and now tarot is probably the most popular and most commonly known type of card used for reading and used for either fortune telling or any type of really reading as we know it. And then as for oracle cards, those actually sort of evolved from tarot. And again, historically, where these cards originally came from on paper is from this mystic named Marie Anne Adelaide Lenormand. And she was a fortune teller in France. And from what it sounds like, she was the most sort of well-known mystic of her time. And she used cards for her readings. She did many other things. She read egg whites, which I had never heard of, and she read coffee grounds and a few other things, but she also used tarot. And then she was also known for deviating from the deck. And when she passed away, there were artists and sort of makers that began to make these card decks sort of in her honor, and they too started to deviate from the original deck. And I think there's an original deck called like Lenormand cards or Oracle, and that is the first sort of deck that's recorded that is totally unlike tarot and sort of has nothing to do with, well, not nothing, but it deviates from our understanding of tarot, and it embodies a totally new structure. So that's kind of a little historical background of what the two are. And like I mentioned, tarot has got structure and has really got sort of specifics, but Oracle now is used in a very different way. And there are sort of two ways you can incorporate Oracle into your life. They're often character-based, and it's much more sort of free form and free flowing in terms of how you do the readings and what your sort of spread looks like, and how you choose to interpret them. I mean, every card deck always comes with a book, and it always explains things, and there's a couple of decks that are really specific in their explanation, but Oracle is generally used to be more of an intuitive deck. I mean, they're both used to be intuitive decks, but Oracle is a bit more flexible, and you can really choose a suit or a card or a card deck or a theme that really works for you. And there are so many Oracle decks out there you can't even imagine, like everything from animal Oracle decks to mermaid Oracle decks to angels to water creatures. You know, there's everything out there, and they're more thematic in how they work. So each card is more of a thematic sort of existence. Sometimes, you know, the decks that I use are guardians and guides. So they're more character-based, and they're more sort of focused on who that character is and what purpose they serve. But they're more, I would say that they lend more towards your creativity and sort of strengthening your intuitive powers, because they don't already have such a strong meaning attached to them. You know, tarot is like, pentacles are associated with success, and cups are associated with watery emotions, and wands are associated with sort of work and effort, and swords are associated with the sort of things that bind us and the things that we need to cut through. But Oracle can be interpreted much more loosely and gives you that opportunity to sort of begin to practice and develop your intuitive abilities by, yes, working with the deck for a long time so that you understand what they inherently mean, but then moving beyond that and seeing, okay, what's coming up for me when I pull this card? What are my first intuitive feelings? And even, sitting down and pulling a card and then meditating or writing down right away on exactly what's coming up for you. Because you might surprise yourself that you're actually deriving more sort of intuitive messages than from what the deck originally says. So that brings me to what I do and how I read my cards. And I definitely am an unconventional reader. This happens a lot, I find, with other intuitives and other psychic readers, but I like to use my cards as a tool. If I wanted to, you and I, or whoever is watching, if we were to have a private session, I could hop on with you and I could tune into your energy and I could just give you a reading without having anything in front of me. But I'm somebody who really likes to have a tool for navigation. It's like having an instrument or having a paintbrush. I like having sort of something to go from. And I also tend to use my cards as a way to enter. When I have my cards out, then my intuitive sort of senses perk up and my guides know that, okay, this is a space that we're creating for a reading at this time. So when I use my cards to do readings, I'm channeling your energy and I'm tuning in, but I'm very rarely really adhering to what the original meaning of the card is. Often it serves as a good sort of base, or if you're a painter, it's a good wash of the theme of where I'm going to be speaking from. But in general, I use them as a navigational tool, much like someone would use a crystal ball or I would say tea leaves, but tea leaves also have some structure to it as well. So, or how someone would use a pendulum. Like, this is my wand for sort of accessing the magic of your reality and your messaging, and I am simply a channel. So I hope that clears up some of the differences between tarot and oracle. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. If this video landed for you or you think it might be helpful for someone, please share it. And I'm still doing free readings. I won't be doing them for much longer, but I'm still doing free readings. So hop into the link below. Unless you're in my private healing matrix, then just comment below and I'll send you the link. And I hope you're all having a beautiful Tuesday. And again, if you want to see these on Tuesday, because I don't post them on time on YouTube and Instagram, hop into the Indigo Instinct Healing Matrix on Facebook and my moon readings, my full and new moon readings. If you want to see those in advance, hop into the Indigo Instinct Healing Matrix. It's free, it's private, it's just a Facebook group where we hold safe space and we talk about all things energy. And I hope you're having a wonderful day and continue to do so. Blessings.